This is Jim Reid. My work with WPTF is concerned mostly with sports and with news broadcasts. This is my 12th year with the station. I came here from Greenville, South Carolina, where I was program director of a 5,000-watt NBC affiliate for 3 years. This is wonderful territory here for sports, a great sports-minded section of the country. In fact, I don't know of many comparable areas that have 4 outstanding nationally recognized athletic institutions of the type that we have. Right here within 25 miles of WPTF, we have Duke, North Carolina, Wake Forest, and NC State. And year-round, the interest in sports is terrific. In football, Duke's Blue Devils are returning this year to national ranking. Carolina's Tar Heels have been twice to the Sugar Bowl and once to the Cotton Bowl in the last 5 years. Yet here in the Southern Conference, Wake Forest has beaten both of them for the last 2 seasons. The Deacons baseball team has been twice to the National College Finals. NC State has been to Madison Square Garden with its basketball team more times than you can count. They've been in the NCAA tournament and the National Invitational consistently. For the last 2 seasons, the Southern Regional NCAA tournament has been held here in Raleigh in State's big 14,000-seat Coliseum. Last year, NC State attracted more spectators at home than any other college basketball team in the country. Now, this year, Carolina over Chapel Hill has just hired Frank McGuire from St. John's University as head coach to enable them to compete with State locally in basketball. Like I said, we've got a red-hot sports area here in North Carolina, and WPTF is right in the middle of it. Everybody is a sports fan. Personally, I've been doing football play-by-play for 15 years, 11 years for the Atlantic Network, of which WPTF was a key station in this area. We have a fine schedule of basketball games from Duke, State, Carolina, and Wake Forest, about 3 games a week at night. In the spring, we cover college baseball Saturday afternoons. Local sports shows include a 5-minute sports review, which has been sold to one sponsor ever since I've been in Raleigh, and we're now putting in a sports column of the air each evening to enable us to do interviews with coaches, stars, and so forth, something very easy to do because we're so close to so much and work with the coaches so closely. I've never had one turn me down yet. In addition to my sports, I work with a 5-minute news show across the board at 7 o'clock in the morning and the 15-minute 9 o'clock news, which I started 12 years ago. Another little pet project is the 7:30 a.m. How's the Weather program, which has attracted a lot of attention, written after talking over the weatherman or the weather map at 7 o'clock in the morning. I learned my weather in the Navy Air Force in the Aleutian Islands. All in all, with sports, news, and weather, I keep pretty busy, but I feel they're all good shows, interesting and different, and I enjoy doing them. This is Jim Reid. Now I'd like to have you meet one of our top newsmen, Sam Beard. Besides regular staff work here at WPTF, my principal job is news. During the course of each day, I handle 5 news shows, 2 S.A. reporter broadcasts at 7:55 a.m. and 12 noon, a 15-minute summary at 2 p.m., and a 5-minute review of Raleigh happenings at 6:15 each evening. In addition, I am part of a 2-voice newscast at 9 o'clock each morning, and for the past 3 summers have done something of an analysis news show at 12:45. On each cast, we try to arrange our material in such a manner that it will be of maximum interest to the type of listener we have at that particular hour. For example, our 2 o'clock broadcast is heard primarily by women. And since we have a full 15 minutes for it, we're able to use feature stories and also able to weave in sidelight news to give the listener what we consider a fuller view of the day's developments. For example, last week, Andrei Vyshinsky pounded the podium up at UN headquarters and accused the whole world of being against Soviet Russia. And the only reason for the outburst was some distracting noise from the boiler room. But we included that story in some detail at 2 o'clock, for it graphically illustrates Russia's whole diplomatic attitude, and we have a feeling that, in that way, the story stuck in the listener's mind. On our 5-minute newscasts, of course, where brevity is important, well, we're brief. And I've seen as many as 12 stories included on one of these. It's especially true of City Edition, the evening summary of Raleigh news. We have to cover a lot of territory, and we have to do a lot of writing, but our listeners say the result is well worth the effort. Now, just one personal note. I'm a graduate of the University of North Carolina, majoring in history and economics, and with the exception of Navy duty during World War II,
have been here at WPTF for almost 11 years, in radio for the past 14. To change the subject, I think we all agree that music is an important part of any station's schedule. And at this point, I'm very happy to introduce Worth White, who handles one of WPTF's most popular disc shows.
My work began at WPTF 10 years ago when I was selected to be a studio guide, showing our many visitors around the radio station. This position didn't last long for me because within a few months I was offered the position of transcription clerk, where I became familiar with the operation of the turntables, transcriptions, records, and general production. A few months later, I auditioned for announcing, and except for a 2-year tour of duty in the Navy, I've been announcing ever since. My work has included every phase of announcing: news, music programs, special events, and other related types of programs. One of my most pleasant assignments came during the past summer when WPTF presented the annual Home Demonstration Club Chorus Series. It was my job to announce and produce some 20 choral programs from various parts of the state, each one being recorded from the county seat of the counties participating. At the end of the series, WPTF presented prizes to each of 4 winners during a special 30-minute program on which I was master of ceremonies. At the present time, my chief interest is in a program called Hillbilly Jukebox, a full hour every Saturday night. We play the top 10 hillbilly tunes, plus a selection of extras on each show. The mail pool is good, even though we don't ask for mail on the program, and the telephone stays busy all through the hour, though we do not solicit calls. Ratings show this to be one of the most popular programs on the air here. My interest in this type of music has enabled me to meet many of the artists and to talk about them intelligently. When hillbilly artists come out with a new recording, I usually know about it and try to get it on the air first. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jimmy Capps.
Jockeying discs is my principal activity at WPTF. My career in radio began in 1936. I've had at least one record program a day since that time. I began my current program on WPTF in 1947. It's titled My Best to You and uses the old Isom Jones song by that title as a theme. Since its beginning, the program has consistently drawn well over 1,000 pieces of mail per month, a heavy percentage of that mail coming from colleges in the area. There are 86 colleges and universities in the station's primary area. We hear regularly from all of these, as well as schools in Georgia and Florida. A voluntary survey taken last year by an organization on the campus of North Carolina State College revealed that 93% of the students claim to listen 5 nights a week to Our Best to You. 500 students were surveyed. From comments received in the mail and reaction to my visits to the various campuses, I believe similar results would be found on all of the campuses in this area. The program is credited by RCA Victor with starting the only 3 Red Seal records ever to sell in popular proportions in the country: Bluebird of Happiness, Sleigh Ride, and Be My Love. Our Best to You has become a part of campus life in North and South Carolina, and the students don't forget it. Former students still write from all over the country, and servicemen from all over the world. This constitutes a large and loyal audience. If they don't forget the program, they would not forget a sponsor. I believe Our Best to You to be the best medium in the area for reaching and selling the large college audience. I'm not the only man who works in the wee hours on WPTF. There's a fellow sleepier than I am who comes in just a few hours after I leave. Now I'd like you to meet our BJ, Bill Jackson.
This is Bill Jackson speaking. I'm the morning man here at WPTF and have been since May of this year. The program, using my initials, is called The BJ Show and embodies the usual morning music, weather reports, time signals, and chatter in a low-pressure, easy-going vein. The BJ Show is segmentized with a different type of pitch for each period. For instance, the 5 to 6 portion in the morning is aimed at the farm families in North and South Carolina and Virginia. This period has news, market reports, general farm information, and a bulletin board feature with announcements concerning church, school, and club meetings and functions. The music is varied with stress on hymns, marches, and country ballads. Then from 6 to 7, the music is of the popular variety with more news, weather, and time signals, directed to a mixed audience of farm families and early city workers. Into the later periods from 7 till 9, the pitch goes more and more to the city dwellers, with the 8:30 to 9 music and talk specifically for the housewife who is cleaning up the kitchen after getting the family off to work or school. As for experience in radio, the background dates back to 1938, at which time I began as sports director of station WBIG in Greensboro, North Carolina. Since 38, with the exception of 4 years in the Navy, my work has been exclusively radio. Besides doing sports, I have served as program director and special events man for 4 stations in North and South Carolina. The early rising stint has been my job for the past 5 years, with stations in Wilson and Greensboro, North Carolina, and here at WPTF. Now I'd like to introduce a man as familiar to the WPTF scene as our own transmitter. His voice is probably better known than any in the Carolinas, and his Carolina Chats program, heard each Sunday evening over WPTF, is avidly listened to by thousands of Tar Heels. Here he is, Carl Goerch.
Thanks, Bill, and good evening, everybody. You know, the first time I used those words of greeting on my regular programs over WPTF was 20 years ago, and I've been using them ever since. As a matter of fact, I don't believe I could start a broadcast without using them. I'm not a native of North Carolina, came down here almost 40 years ago from New York State, and did newspaper work in Eastern Carolina for a long time. In 1933, I started the State Magazine, which has been my chief business interest ever since. In that same year, 1933, I also started a daily broadcast of Doings of the Legislature, and this work has been continued during every session of our General Assembly since then. My work in running the magazine has taken me practically to every hog path in every county in the state. It has given me a wonderful picture of North Carolina, its resources, and its people. And my regular Sunday night programs have been devoted largely to telling our listeners about what I have seen and heard on my travels. Places of historical interest, beautiful scenic spots, unusual things, and oddities of various kinds, outstanding people in different lines of activity, and so on. I've often made the statement, and I believe it to be true, that there's no one in North Carolina who has obtained more genuine pleasure out of his work during the last 20 years than I have. And I must admit that not the least of this pleasure lies in the fact that wherever I go, within a radius of 150 miles or so of Raleigh, and whenever I'm introduced to some stranger, he invariably says, "Oh, yeah, I've been listening to you over WPTF for many years." Yes, sir, I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I've enjoyed telling about it on these radio programs, thereby making our people better acquainted with their state and more cognizant of the fact that there is no grander place in this country of ours, no grander place in which to live, in which to play, and in which to work than North Carolina. And now I'd like to present to you a well-known and outstanding personality on WPTF, Harriet Pressly.
I am Director of Women's Affairs and Public Service at WPTF. For 9 years, I've been on the air each afternoon, Monday through Friday at 2:30, with a program primarily for women. In that time, I've come to know a number of our listeners personally and have been invited to attend many of their meetings, talking with them on some subject that is of importance to organized women's groups. Just this week, for instance, I've been to Livingston to talk to the Southeastern District of Negro Home Demonstration Clubs and to Oxford for the Granville County Home Demonstration Achievement Day. Raleigh is the capital of North Carolina, and there's much going on here that is of vital interest to the people in our primary coverage. This is the center of the social and educational activities of the state. My membership in a number of clubs and civic organizations gives us first-hand knowledge of what important personalities will appear in Raleigh and when, as well as what issues and programs are getting the attention of these groups. To give an idea of the scope of these activities and interests, they include the Raleigh Women's Club, the Girl Scout Area Council, the YWCA, the North Carolina Society for Crippled Children and Adults, the United Council of Church Women, the Raleigh Board of Education, Civic Music Association,